So this poem, Kasi, Bidar Sho, Bidar Sho. That awake, awake, it's I think it's difficult always to wake up and see things. You see too much, you witness too much. And you would want to go back to sleep. This idea that you should awaken and remain awake. I don't really know what that means. I think it's a nice poem. I think it's an inspiring poem, but this particular poem, like all of his poems, I think, they're like someone going on a stage telling people to wake up, and the person speaking doesn't consider their capacity, their lifestyle, their temperament. And then the next line is Az khishtan bizar sho, to be disgusted. Look yourself in the mirror and be disgusted. That's too much. I mean, this is the path that you have to take if you want to get to this self that Socrates is talking about, because you have to. I mean, your body becomes so useless. You don't know what to do with it. You want to have sex, but you say, yuck. You want to talk to someone, you say, talk about what? With who? About what? You want to eat, but you say, really? Do I want to be a slave to my taste buds? And everything becomes so dark and gloomy. I mean, you really become disgusted by existence, why you were created. And you blame your parents. I remember David had come to the car wash a few times. And it was these sometimes very, very difficult days, and I would say, I have no idea why I was born. I mean, nothing to do. Books are no good. People are no good. I'm no good. I have no idea what I'm doing. Add to it, especially if you have all these degrees under your belt, but you kind of just feel so incompetent. They say, oh, Amir Sabzabari, congratulations, here's your PhD. And you say, okay, it just means nothing. The practical aspect, the practical application of this poem, it's so horrendous, and I don't really know how to approach it, to be honest. I mean, it's nice to sing it, it's nice to hear how Humayun sings it because it's beautiful. But on a practical note, and then, he says, if you want this physician, if you want this physician to come down and look upon you and then remedy you, become sick. And you have to be ill. If you're not ill, if you're not sick, then a doctor has no use for you. I mean, it's like going to the dentist and he says, okay, so what's wrong with you? Nothing. Do you want to check up? No. Well, do you want me to clean your teeth? No. Everything was done yesterday. So what the hell are you doing here? So the way to wakefulness is you really have to be, first of all, disgusted by yourself, with yourself. You have to be disgusted by what your body does, like Plotinus. you have these out-of-body experiences that he did. And you come back to your body and you say, I don't want to be part of this game. I don't want to be part of my body. I don't want to be this entity that eats and then poops and then has all these desires. Because I've experienced something very, very different. But it's not just your body. You also have, an emotional life. You have relationships with people, which means you have to be disgusted by those things as well. You also have ambitions. You also have goals. But they're socially constructed, so you have to be disgusted by those too. There is nothing about you that you should like. That's what the poem is. At this stage in his life, he's not talking to his wife. He's no longer a family man, And if you're sitting in your room and writing poetry, you're not even a man of people anymore. You're just writing poetry. And once in a while you're coming out and you're dancing. Even though you know this story much better than I, and I've told this story 1,000 times. And some of it is luck and some of it is just rigorous training. It's about this young kid, and feel free to fall asleep since you've heard the story before. This young kid wants to just go out there and have some fun at a bar, or he wants to go dancing, or he wants to go play soccer. I'm not quite sure where he's going, but he passes by this mosque and the door is open. And he hears this man talk, and he has a great voice. And he's attracted to the tone of this man's voice, and he just kind of puts his head in a little bit, and now his ears are attracted to the message. And he looks at the man, and his eyes are now attracted to this man. And what you have is your ears are attracted, your eyes are attracted, and what you're hearing is creating all these stories, these imaginations come to life, and psychologically you're attracted. And the attraction is so much that you forget your original goal, which was, I'm going to go out there and have some fun, physical fun. But he's been gripped by something that entertains him emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. This is a story from the 9th century from Iran. And 2, 3, 4 hours pass by. We talk about the environment that has the power to kind of manipulate someone's psyche into forgetting one aspect of life, and waking this person up to a different aspect of life. And when it's done, when the sermon is done, he goes to this guy and says, I just want to be around you all the time. And that's another thing that I think it's good to consider. We don't really know how or when or why someone becomes attracted to something. It's something my father asks all the time. He says, we talked to you when you were in Iran when you were a kid. We talked to you when we came to India to visit you. We talked to you when we came to America. We talked to you when you were 20. We talked to you when you were 30. When exactly did you decide to take yourself seriously? And it's a curious thing from my father. And I say, what's Hussein? He says, how is that possible? We talk to you every day for like 20 years. And that's the thing. No one really knows. No one knows how this opening is created. You know, I'm not talking about an inspired opening, because all of us have those moments. A sort of opening that remains open. And so for this particular kid in this story, it just stays open. And the difficulty is, once you begin to like the sky, you know, it's like your own goals, your own desires, your own history just goes away. And you say, okay, I want to be a student. And the guy says, okay, well, you have to clean the bathroom. You know, and imagine if you have a PhD. Imagine if you have a husband or a wife. Imagine if you have kids. Imagine if you take care of your parents. There are so many things that you have to do in life. And then someone makes this ridiculous demand on you, that if you want to be a student, clean the bathroom. You know, you have to believe, you have to love, you have to have faith. And it's, you know, the Kierkegaardian leap of faith. You just say, fine. You know, but for Kierkegaard, you think, you reflect, and you say, I'm just going to do this and see where it goes. But in this story, the kid doesn't think about leap of faith. He just says, you know, I love this guy, I'm just going to do it. And, you know, for 2 years, talk about being patient. You know, for 2 years, he just cleans the bathroom. And then he goes to the guy and says, you know, 2 years have passed, what do I do now? And here's the thing, you know. You know, you clean the bathroom because you love your teacher. You don't see the bathroom. You just say, when he comes in and looks at the bathhouse, he's going to see everything spotless. And then 2 years later, you know, after 2 years of doing the bathrooms, he now has to clean the kitchen floor. You know, all because this man asked him to do so. And his love for this man is so great, it says, fine. I mean, this idea that you have to become sick, you have to become ill, that you need this man so much, that he is the cause of your misery, he's also the remedy, you know, that he has made you sick, and he can also create health inside you. Codependency, attachment, submission, slavery, all of it is in there. Exploitation, manipulation, all the evil, awful things that you can think about one human being doing to another lives inside the story. You know, 2 years pass by and this guy graduates from washing the floors, and now the guy says, now you gotta cook. 2 years pass by, now you gotta serve tea. You know, long story short, he's eventually allowed to be in the lecture hall, but to sit at the very last row. Then he's allowed to sit in the middle row. Then he's allowed to sit in the very front. Then one day he goes in, but he gets kicked out. And people say, we have no idea who you are. And it's interesting the way things work, you know. You leave your family behind, you leave your friends behind, you leave your ambitions, your goals, your desires behind, you leave yourself behind. You join this group, this cult. But what the teacher knows is that, you've grown attached, you've created a history. The task is for you to be nothing and remain nothing. But you have fallen in love with this community. It needs to go. And so eventually it gets to a point where the teacher looks at him and says, I have no idea who you are. And this young kid screams, that I've served you for the past 20 years. What do you mean you have no idea who I am? And, he's lonely, he's depressed, he's sad, he's angry. He goes to the cemetery. And that's another point of the story, that no one can ever give us wisdom. It's impossible. No one can. I don't really know if there is a God. It doesn't really matter. But the way this particular path towards self-knowledge, and it's a self that is not about your body, it's not about what your parents have done to you so that you're having all these emotions. It's not about your job, it's not about your fantasies about marriage or children. It's not about how many books you've read. I'm not quite sure what this particular self is, but it's something that's not describable. And he has nothing, this kid. He goes to the cemetery, is exhausted, falls asleep, and he has a dream. And that's his transformation, the dream. It's no different than St. Paul's vision of Jesus that transforms his life completely. So, I suppose the key words is, if you want self-knowledge, become disgusted, so much so that you become sick, that you just hate yourself. And you're in despair, you're depressed, you're lonely, you have a good amount of sorrow inside you. And your teacher, this tabib, this physician, will create a proper environment within and without. Is that okay? I have this flower pot outside. It broke in half. I bought it for $300. It's such a nice pot, I just like it. And when it broke, because of the wind some time ago, I couldn't just throw it away, so I glued it together. It looks sturdy, but I know when the roots grow a little, and if I try to move it, it'll break again. And that's the sort of interior you need to have. You need to have an interior that's broken. And when it's broken, there's a good amount of pain. And pain forces you to think and remember. It forces you to feel. And despite, the painful aspect of it, it's profoundly valuable because of the things that come out of pain. The sort of thoughts you have, the sort of conversations you have, the sort of things you write, how you go into the classroom and talk to your students, how you just embody the pain, how it makes your physical body move, how you eat with a good amount of mindfulness, it makes you more empathetic, more kind, more decent. It is painful, but it does, create some wonderful things. The only thing, you just have to be patient for these wonderful things to come out once in a while, because unless you're a pro, if you're a professional, you can will these things out, because the brokenness is just who you are. If on the other hand you are broken but you forget and you remain forgetful for a long time, it's difficult to sit and write creatively or think creatively.